Hey everyone, hi, I'm Sandra Olszowka Duron and welcome to the Chronic Health Collective. This isn't just a community, it's your fresh start. We've gathered the best coaches and experts to help you reclaim your energy, heal from the inside out, and live with purpose. Whether you're longing for more energy, deeper healing in your relationships, or a life that feels more aligned and fulfilling, you're not alone anymore. Let's rise together. And we have a really exciting episode today. We have Erin Ley, and welcome, to today's episode where we're focusing on freedom and we're diving deep into the power of freedom in your life and your business and your purpose. And our guest today is Erin Ley, known as the coach to the coaches and the miracle maker. Erin's resilience as a cancer thriver and successful entrepreneur inspires her philosophy to celebrate life. And if you do, you'll have a life worth celebrating. And so, Erin is a global leading life coach, business strategist, best-selling author, and award-winning speaker who has spent over 30 years empowering coaches, speakers, and entrepreneurs to reach six-figure success while living a life they truly love. And today, Erin will guide us through how freedom begins with vision and clarity in decision-making and overcoming fear and self-doubt and leading really a life that's authentic. And with energy. And so if you're ready to break free from what's been holding you back, step into the freedom you deserve, then stay tuned. And this conversation with Erin just may be the moment that changes everything for you. And Erin, welcome. It's so lovely to see you.
It's so good to be here with you, Sandra. Thank you so much. And great to be here with all of you watching. I'm so excited for this.
That's wonderful, Erin. And the idea of miracle maker. Can you give us some background, because it just sounds like there's such an inspirational story here. I'd love for you to share this with us.
Yes, and I really believe that when people share their stories, that's where connection happens, right? And not just as coaches and speakers and everything else. That's super important, but just people being honest and authentic and sharing their stories with other people. It inspires other people as well. So my journey started with a cancer diagnosis in 1991. And it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoblastic lymphoma. And it sounds very windy. with the wind. But it was a crazy 2.5-year protocol, right? And the doctors told me the chemo didn't work as fast as the tumor was growing. I'd be dead in a month. 25 years old, I was just getting my life started. And so it threw me into this, very different way of thinking and living, because now I'm like, I have to survive, not just go out with my friends anymore and go to work and do what I do. So I don't know how the books came to me, but these two books, Full Catastrophe Living by Jon Kabat-Zinn was one of them. And that introduced me to mindfulness meditation in the back of the book. And again, this is 1991. It was a long time ago. And the other book was Shakti Gawain's Creative Visualization. So when I married meditation with visualization, I became unstoppable. I didn't know anything about the inner world. You guys watching, I didn't know anything about the inner world. I was a stockbroker on Wall Street, fully licensed with the Series 763, the insurance license. I didn't know anything about the inner world. Everything was very, very outer world based, very superficial. Even my faith in God was just up in the sky somewhere, and I went to the all girls Catholic school, a Roman Catholic, but just everything was outside of me. And so in 1991, I had this awakening, this epiphany, this amazing, visceral kind of an experience where I tapped into all of this. And it was before the movie The Secret came out. The Secret came out in 2006. I was very excited that everybody's going to learn how to do what I was doing in 1991, but I kept living every time the doctors said I die. I went on to, and there was so many things that I survived even before I went on to have kids. So I survived the cancer, and we're going to get into, I want to hear about you with the Hashimoto's and stuff like that, because I did end up with hepatitis C from blood transfusions that I had in 91. They didn't know about hep C. They only knew about non-A, non-B, and I ended up with hypothyroid also for a little while on Synthroid, and then I fixed that, and I ended up, I was the first patient the doctor cured of hepatitis C in the 20 years he was treating non-A and non-B. And meanwhile, I had to stop the treatment halfway through because of my thyroid. So, I really credit the meditation, the visualization, the affirmations, all these things we could do for ourselves. And then I went on to have 3 kids that they swore would never happen. So the doctors called me the miracle maker, and the doctors started having their patients call me at home in the 90s. And that's how I started coaching. I was on fire to empower these patients to do what I did, because all they knew was chemo and radiation. They didn't know all the other things they could do for themselves. So that's what I love to do.
Well, this is beyond inspiring, and it speaks a lot to your strength and your perseverance, because a lot of people getting a diagnosis is that they then they hear what the prognosis is, and in essence they set themselves to follow that path.
Right.
That the doctor says it will be this, and therefore it's this, and then the doctor says it will be this, and therefore it's that. And for you to so dramatically
rebel,
do the opposite of everything the doctors were saying. What was driving you? Like, how did you decide? Like, how did you turn inward instead of just follow what they were saying?
I don't even know how to describe it. It was like an existential crisis, really, that was happening within me. And I started to see things that I recognized that other people didn't see, and that they didn't understand. And I somehow I had a full understanding of this. And so when the doctors would come in and they would give me the bad news that I wasn't going to make it out of the hospital, I was going to die, and they're crying, and I'm like, no, I'm not, and they call my parents to come say goodbye. I was very confused, but I wasn't going to give up on what I didn't just believe it, I knew it. It's like, I don't just believe there's air, I know there's air. Like, I didn't just believe that visualizing what you want and meditating and that the body is designed to cure itself. The body is designed to heal itself. I knew that for a fact. Like, nobody could convince me otherwise, right?
It's really so inspirational, Erin, that that you were told all these things, and yet you had this other vision for yourself, and you believed in this other vision. And how did you get there? How did you decide to not just listen and follow what they were saying?
Well, I love what you just said about the vision, and then how did I decide? Because I've learned and created a whole business around vision and decision. Literally everything I do, Life on Track, is about vision and decision. Create a crystal clear vision of exactly what you want. That's what I learned from the hospital bed at 25 years old. Without a vision, you don't know where you're going. If you don't have a vision for your life, then life is driving you. You're not in the driver's seat, and you're going to be bing bonging all over the place. So when I learned that I had to write down pen to paper, there's a whole psychology, you guys, pen to paper, of exactly what I wanted. Detail. So I learned that it's called the law of assumption, right? You write down exactly what you want, close your eyes, and you visualize it. You bring it alive in your mind's eye. And with all your senses, the smell of the food, the sounds of the music, the hugs of the loved ones, and everybody's so excited because you accomplished your goal. You have the feeling as if it's already done, right? Whatever that vision is for your life. Like for me, I was healthy, I was happy, and I wrote down, I want to get married, I want to have kids, and the home that I wanted, like in detail of exactly what I wanted to do. But I closed my eyes and I visualized, brought it alive with the senses, and had the feeling, that's the key part, had the feeling as if it was already happening right now. You're bending time, right? You're bringing the future into the present. And I was able to check everything off my list, so I learned that was a thing. Number one, the law of assumption was a thing, and I did it, and it kept proving true over and over and over again. And we'll get into this, but I really believe the law of assumption is the basis, and then that leads to the law of vibration, and then that leads to the law of attraction. But it all starts with the law of assumption.
And did you have people who were supporting you, or did you find that you were really just creating this roadmap all for yourself, and away you went? Like how
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much. It's so funny because in 1991 they thought you were crazy. Here I am. I'm like, I'm so excited about all these things I'm learning, and I'm telling people, I'm like, oh my God, this is a thing, and this, and they're like, No, Erin, that's a little crazy, like that's not, you sure the drugs aren't getting to you, the chemo and everything? And I'm like, no, it's spirituality. And they're like, what do you mean spirituality? So they didn't really understand it. They didn't want to hear about it. They thought you were crazy. They thought I was crazy if I talked about it. And even when I wrote my book, The Will to Live, which I started writing at the end of the, 1997, and it came out in 2007. But I had to write very cryptically about spiritual universal law, like all the things that most people are open to now. Like most people didn't question anything years ago, in the 90s. They just went along and did whatever they were told to believe, and they believed what they were told to believe. And now people are waking up, and they're even my kids in their 20s, they're questioning everything now, which is so beautiful, because there's so much more. That for everybody listening, there's so much that you could do for yourself. And when you focus on healing yourself, and that could be physically, emotionally, financially, in any way, that will have a ripple effect to the 7 people around you, or the 7 closest people around you, your kids, your parents, whoever it is, your friends, will then focus on themselves and heal themselves physically, spiritually, emotionally. Imagine if that's what went around the world. And everybody started empowering themselves. And that's what, like in 1991, that was my mission, to just heal myself and then inspire other people to see how I did it, and how I went on to have kids, and like whatever I'm going through in life, I'm very open and honest about it. Like there are no secrets. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and people know what's going on in my life. But I do it not just because I just, I'm just sharing to share. But if I'm going through something, I want to inspire people, because I do understand that I know I'm not going to quit. I know the key to life is not quitting. Perseverance is so key. And that book, Think and Grow Rich, I read that also from the hospital bed. Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. It's a blueprint for an amazing life. 13 principles in that book. And to learn that at 25 years old, I bought it for my kids. They're in their 20s. And I inscribed it and basically bribe them to read it. I'm like, I'll pay you. Please make sure you read it. Take bullet points. Send me the bullet points. I want to see what you got out of it. But when you can do all of what we're talking about right now, and you do it for yourself, it's not selfish. Self-care and turning within, going within yourself and exploring that inner world because the projection of the outer world is what's going on in your inner world. So you want it to be beautiful. You want to work on it so that you have that inner peace. So then that outer world that you're looking at, and that, you're never going to look to validation for it ever again, but you're looking at it to see, how can I continue to co-create, with other people, with God, with the universe, whatever you want to call it. But we're constantly co-creating. You and I are co-creating right now, Sandra, and with Andy and Minna and everybody in this group. And it's beautiful.
It is. It completely is. And you're right. Things have changed from what they were before, because topics that we're now able to openly discuss and other people to have an understanding of them, if you would have mentioned them years ago, you would just get stares or
side eye.
A polite nod or something like that, and that would be it. And I'm curious in terms, when people get overwhelmed or distracted, how do you maintain that crystal clear focus? Because, for you being, first of all, so young, right? So young, and having, the diagnosis and having treatments and all these things whirling around you. And yet you were able to just sort of set that aside and just walk this path. I mean, how did you maintain focus?
Well, I realized, and it wasn't all Pollyanna when I first started this. I was screaming and yelling and didn't want to believe I had cancer. And in the very beginning, it was crazy, until I got grounded in what we're talking about now with what I learned. So once you know something, you can't unknow it. You can't unlearn it. Once you see something, you can't unsee it. So if I went and to this day, I'm 59 years old, I'm going to be 60. And to this day, if I go into overwhelm, and it's going to happen because we live in a dual universe, duality is part of, our life, and we have to experience it. Otherwise, we're not living a whole life. But even to this day, if I go into overwhelm, I understand I got to get grounded. And we spoke before coming on here, I call it my V-mail, right? And that's just it's the vision, the mindset, the action, the energy, and the leadership. And I put all this together. I'm 25 years old and I'm like, I'm going to put together this thing and everybody's going to learn about this and the whole world's going to know about this and there was no social media. I did a blog talk radio show from 2010 to 2013. But before that, it was just books. It was a library. You went through cards. You had to find this stuff. But in my mind, I knew I was going to get this out to the world. I wanted to get it out to the world. And that was pretty big thinking for a 25-year-old from New York in Manhattan, being treated for cancer before cable was a thing, so cable meaning the way cable is these days. So when you have a crystal clear vision for your life, now you know where you're going. You have that North Star, right? So now you have a direction and you have your goals. And now under the vision, there are different goals. So like a ladder leading to that ultimate vision, right? And then the mindset is, how long are you going to experience those negative feelings? How long are you going to allow yourself to experience? Because we have to experience the negative, but we don't stay there. And the bridge between fear, right? And the bridge
people get stuck.
Totally. But the bridge to get unstuck, the bridge between being stuck and being unstuck is gratitude. If you're stuck, understand like there are things to be grateful for. Okay, I'm stuck right now, but what can I do? I have a whole conversation. I could go on and on for hours about the can versus can't, right? And I have a whole program going out about can versus can't. But when you're stuck, most people, and I'm sure a lot of people watching, are thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't have this, I don't have that, I can't because I don't have this, and I can't because I don't have that. What about if you said to yourself, what if I can? What if I can do that? What if I can get up and just walk outside and just take a different route to work? What if I can meet one new person today? What if I can shake hands? What if I can go to a networking event and shake hands with just one new person? We don't know where it might lead to, but you never know. Go ahead.
You're absolutely right. And one thing leads to another. And what I'd love to do, we'll take a quick break. And when we do come back, Erin, I'd love to know everything about V-Mail. I think that's so exciting. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll see you in one moment. Thanks, Erin.
Is like a lightning rod. It's energy that's coming in, tremendous energy that's coming in. It's up to every single one of us of what we're going to do with that energy.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. Say goodbye to dullness and hello to youthful radiance. And guess what? For a limited time, you get a free cooling eye cream applicator with your purchase. It's time to unlock your inner glow with coolness. So what are you waiting for? Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Welcome back, everyone. And we are here today with Erin Ley, Life on Track Coaching. And Erin, we've had an amazing first segment, understanding your journey to where you've come to. And now, how do you take other people on their journey? I understand you've got this for Life on Track. You've got these pillars. And so can you explain a little bit more about VMail?
Yes, I love this. Okay, so we talked about vision, right? So vision is you see it, you feel it, you own it, right? You see it in your mind's eye, you feel it, you bring it alive with the senses, have the feeling as if it's happening right now, that's you owning it, right? And then mindset, mindset is literally just about behavior is what drives your action. Behavior is what drives what it is that beliefs are what drives behavior. Beliefs are what drive behavior. So what you're believing in your subconscious mind, which is where all your beliefs are, from birth to 8 is where we take on beliefs of our parents or teachers, or I was going to say our spouses, our parents or teachers are
get married young, maybe too young.
Places of worship, that's where we take on the beliefs from birth to 8, and then we live it out for a lifetime. So we get married, and that paradigm is still running like a computer program. Yeah. So with regard to mindset, the work is really about undoing all of those beliefs. And it's not just about becoming, you guys. Like everybody's like working, to become, constantly becoming, which is fabulous. But even more importantly, it's about remembering who you truly are, undoing all of the garbage that was jumped into our subconscious minds, beliefs that are not our own. We just took them on as truth because that's what happens when we're born into this school called Earth.
Well, and how do we distinguish that? Because you're right. We come, as we grow, we have this concept of who we are, right? What we believe in, what we stand for. And then you're right. Sometimes if we start doing inner work, we realize that no, that's actually not an interest of mine. And that's not a core belief of mine. Like, how does somebody get there? Because are there people who actually make it all the way through their lives, not really being authentic?
Yes, they do. They go through their whole life and it's a shame. They go through life in suffering. They go through life like in apathy and in fear and in grief, not grief, in guilt and shame. And that's very, very low vibe. I don't know if you've ever seen Dr. Hawkins' funnel of the level of vibration, and the very bottom of that funnel is the suffering. And that's the guilt and the shame and all that other stuff. And people go through a whole lifetime because they were told as a child that they weren't worthy, that they weren't good enough, that they were undeserving, that they weren't smart, they were stupid, and all these horrible, terrible things that they took on. And then they live that out for a lifetime. So then they attract people to them and, that reinforce it. And then now people are starting to wake up sooner. Unfortunately, up until this point, a lot of people went through life and they were just drifting. Through life, they would just, like what Napoleon Hill talks about, hypnotic rhythm. They would just and get up, go to work, the work's the grind, life sucks. They go home, they, crack open a beer, watch TV, do the same thing tomorrow, and then tomorrow, then the next day, and the next day. And the key to this, you guys, to stop that cycle, that terrible cycle, is look at your results. Look at your results. Financially, emotionally, in every area of your life. Take the time today, get a notebook, get a pen, and just write down your results in every area of your life. And then in which areas are you not happy with that area? And that's where you need the work. That's where you took on the belief that like maybe you can thrive at home. You'd be a wonderful homemaker, but you're not good enough to make it out there in the workforce, or vice versa. You're crushing it, making a lot of money, but you're never going to be a great mother or a father or whatever, like it's just a belief. And it's so sad. So, but the good news is you can unlearn all of that. You can get rid of all of those beliefs that are holding you back. And again, look at your results because they don't lie. The results do not lie. And the work can be done. It's simple, not easy. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes investment, but it's the best investment you can make because it's in yourself. So that's all mindset. That's, we talked about the vision. That is all mindset. and then we're going to talk about action, because again, your mindset is what's going to lead to your action. And if you have the can't versus the can mindset, like, I can't do this and I can't do that, you're not going to do it and you're not going to grow. But the only one holding you back is you, because of the self-doubt, right? Let me give you an example. I went through a divorce, right? Back I was with my ex-husband for 22 years, 3 kids, and it was final in 2016. And I was devastated and shocked and heartbroken and all these different things. And I was in the thick of those emotions. And I was like, I'm never going to feel better. I'm never going to come out of it. Well, guess what? It took me a hot minute to come out of it, because I kept saying, I'm never going to get over this. So it took a little longer than it should have, had I remembered a little sooner what I did with the cancer. But what happened was, I was in the supermarket with $5 in my pocket, and I was like, oh my God. Number one, he forgot who he married. And number two, I forgot what I learned with the cancer. And I went home and I put my nose down. I created a crystal clear vision of exactly what I wanted. I paid very close attention to the words I was speaking. That's the key. The book, The 4 Agreements, be impeccable with your word. I was speaking a lot into what I didn't want, and what I didn't like and what was hurting.
And everyone does.
Right. It's a quote unquote normal. It's normal to do that. And then you find people to commiserate with you and to make you feel validated and make you feel normal. And then I realized I don't want that anymore. So it wasn't easy, because it's a habit, right? It's a habit that you form.
For
I
sure.
had to change that habit, and I had to step into that person that was going to do all new things. And now I'm growing my business. Beforehand, I was coaching. I had written 3 books. I had the radio show on Blog Talk Radio for a couple of years, but not as a full-on CEO. I was just to make the world a better place. And, I wrote character building children's books. I wrote my book, The Will to Live, to, inspire young female adults. It ended up selling around the world. It was a pleasant surprise with that. But it was never as a full-on CEO. One time somebody asked me with my radio show that I Onward and Upward with Erin Ley from 2010 to 2013. And somebody asked me one time, what are you doing about marketing? How are you marketing? And I said, on Sundays, just thinking about the supermarket. Like, I go to the supermarket on Sundays. I didn't realize they were talking about business marketing. So then but then after the divorce, when I had that, that moment, where you just, that eye-opening moment, and I'm like, I am doing everything different now. And so I never flew on a plane by myself. I never booked a hotel and stayed in a hotel by myself. It was always with friends or boyfriends or my husband. I never did it by myself. And I started just getting out there and meeting. This is action, you guys. This is when you just, unapologetic, you just take massive action. And if it terrifies you, that's amazing, because all the magic happens in the unknown. So now I'm getting on planes and I'm flying to the West Coast, and I'm in New York, I'm flying to San Diego, I'm flying to Park City, I'm flying to Scottsdale, I'm flying to Vegas, for book signings and all these things, because once my daughter, my youngest, I have 2 boys and a girl, once my daughter turned 18, I was able to fly, right? So I just started doing it. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know how to carry this luggage on an escalator. I don't know how to, book this and book that. And, so I said, Erin, just get in the car and get to the airport for the plane, right? Once you're at the airport, just check your bags. Segment everything, you guys. When you're in overwhelm, just segment your way through it. And don't worry about the next step. Just stay in the step you're in, segment. And before you knew it, I was at gate. And before you knew it, I was at the hotel. And the first time I was there, and I asked the kids before I left, I'm like, are you sure you're going to be okay, you guys? I've never gone away without you. And they were like, please go. so I'm in the hotel, and I'm thinking, this is going to be lonely. Right. I'm thinking this is going to be lonely. I'm in Texas. I was asked to speak on a very similar to a TEDx talk. It's called Speak Up with Dee Dee Wong. It was amazing. And so I'm in the hotel. It was 4 days. And I'm like, this is amazing. I was never in a hotel. It was quiet. It was just amazing. I could just come and go as please. It was wonderful. So the next month I said to my kids, I'm like, I have a conference in San Diego. Can I go for 9 days? They were like, God. But if I didn't take that action, I never would have kept growing. And that was at a pivotal time. It was right after the pandemic, everything had closed down, shut down. And now everything just opens up again. And and literally everything for me opened up. And every time, and I want you guys to do the same thing, feel the fear and do it anyway, because on the other side of it, you're going to feel amazing. Just keep showing up and showing up, because every time I showed up, I met people and I grew. I met people and I grew, you know, and the more you do something, it's first the courage, then the confidence. First the courage and the confidence. But the key is to stretch your self-image to believe that you can do it, right? Everything is self-image is how you see yourself. And how you see yourself will lead to the self-confidence, which is how you feel about yourself. So it starts with self-image, which leads to the self-confidence. And when you realize that you have confidence, then you'll have confidence, you'll have confidence in your competence that you can get it done.
Well, and what if somebody has a low self-image? Because, oftentimes, not everybody has a supportive environment.
Right.
Not everybody has, a strong personality. So what about people who have been told things and has, as a result, their image is poor, right? They don't feel deserving. They don't feel they have options. What would you tell somebody who just doesn't see something better or different for themselves?
That's the work. That's the work. You got to go inside. If you don't go inside, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be shackled to the outer world. You're always going to be shackled to the outer world. And there's so many people with low self-esteem, and a small self-image. I say, if your self-image is small, your vision stays caged. I had a client, and I love him, Trevor. Trevor is in Idaho. And Trevor and I work together, and I have permission to tell this because he actually flew to my event to share this story from my stage when I had my first in-person Life on Track stage when everything opened up in 2022. And so he flew in with his daughters because his daughters were, like in their teens, but they wanted to start their own businesses. But when I first started with Trevor, he just got laid off from a credit union. And he did not think that, and then the pandemic happened. So a husband with a wife, a mortgage, kids, 4 kids, like all of this pressure. But worse than the pressure was what was going on in his subconscious mind that he took on as a kid. Not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy. All of these self-limiting beliefs. So he would say, Erin, if I could just make $70,000 for the year, I'd be so happy. And he was a financial advisor at the credit union. I said, you're going to start your own business because it was pandemic times. I said, you're going to start your own business and you're going to make a lot more than $70,000. He's like, no, I'm not going to be able to. I'm like, dude, you're a financial advisor. You can make more than $70,000. Trust me. And so we had to do a lot of work first to break down the paradigm of not good enough and not worthy. That was his block. That's why. He spoke into, I can't make more than $70,000. I can't make more than $70,000. I can't make more. So of course he's never going to make more than $70,000. So we broke all of that down. It took a while to work on that first. Then we put his business model together, and then it was $2,000 the first month, $5,000 the second month, after a while, the $10,000, then $15,000, then $20,000 a month. And then in August,
he was happy.
yes. And in August of 2022, it was just a couple months before my event, which was in October of 2022, he had his first $85,000 month. $85,000 a month. He had a small self-image. He had zero self-confidence, zero. That he could do this. I don't care if you're 7, 17, 27, 37, 47, 57, 60, 170. I don't care how old you are. This work can be done. And you can step into a whole new pair of shoes. Dr. Joe Dispenza, it's one of my lines that I love. You got to change your personality in order to change your personal reality. It's so true. It doesn't mean you change who you are at the core. And the soul, it doesn't mean who you change, I call it on the cellular level. It just means you got to change the way you're thinking and the way you're acting, that personality of that's getting in the way, that's holding you hostage and keeping you stuck when you're really never stuck. It's just a self-imposed prison that you have the key to, and you can unlock it at any time, and it just takes the work, but that's what you and I and Andy and everybody, that's part of this group. That's what we love to do. And we love to help people do this, to live their best lives. Mm-hmm. So, go ahead. We can get into the energy and the leadership after this, but I want to take a breath for you.
Sounds perfect. Then this is perfect timing. We'll have a quick break and be right back, because I really am excited to hear everything else, Erin, and I love your energy. Absolutely perfect. We'll be right back.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take control of your well-being. From the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
The time has come for us, the parents who want more for their children and the teachers who want to love teaching again, to band together and stop the coercion and control and the crazy-making boredom. How? By making learning a joyful experience in a relaxed environment. By supporting and encouraging kids, not forcing or tricking them. Meet Christy Boyd Johnson and the Barefoot Learning Club membership. Go to www.barefootlearningclub.com and find out more. Together, we can raise a generation of wildly capable and happy kids.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. And we're here with Erin Ley and having an amazing discussion. I know we're going through your life on track pillars. We've gone through vision and mindset and action. Take us through the next two. We've got energy, we've got leadership. What about these, Erin?
Yes. So your energy, you want to be able to harness it and then direct it in the direction of your dreams. You want to protect it with everything that you got. Your energy, because there's a whole world out there that wants to lower your energy, your frequency, like everything is frequency. And you want to maintain a high frequency. Even the best singers, the Beatles, the Monkees, Marky Mark, they sung about high vibration, but it's a thing, staying high vibe, because when your vibration will always, this is going to get a little, spiritual, really. So, and it's actually scientific, because they can prove it now on scans and everything else. So your vibration gives off a frequency to what they call the field, right? So what we're thinking and what we're feeling and everything else is how we're vibrating. Like I spoke about earlier with the law of assumption. The law of assumption leads to the law of vibration. So energy is that law of vibration. And nothing can be created or destroyed. Everything is energy, right? So energy can't be created or destroyed. So when everything is vibrating, including my laptop, including my desk, everything, not just us and our cells, everything is vibrating at a certain frequency, some really slow and some really fast. So with regard to energy, you want to be diligent about every day, wake up every day. I meditate every morning within the first 17 seconds of waking up, because I want to raise my vibration. I wake up every morning and I literally say this because I've had so many great things, and I spoke about the divorce, and now I'm living my best life. It was night and day. Now I'm like, it's amazing. I wake up every morning and I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And I list all the things I'm grateful for out loud. And I say, there's 16 hours of pure potential, 16 hours of endless opportunity in front of me today. I can't wait to see the people, places, and things you're going to put in my life today. Right? So that's how I set my state. And then I go out and I'm always meeting new people, but I'm intentional. The energy, I'm intentional about my energy. Everything is intention. I'm intentional about setting my energy so it's high. Does that mean that it's high every single day, 24/7? No, I'm human. And we're going to have days of grief. We're going to have days of sadness. We're going to have days of that as well. But my intention is to keep it high. So when it dips, that's not my norm. So when it dips to grief and pain, it bounces back up again. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, no. And so what advice would you give to people? Because, from the moment we wake up, we check our phones, and typically there's 10,000 messages, and then we might look at our news feed, and the news feed is probably full of things that aren't, the most wonderful things going on. Then you head out for the day and you're bombarded with all these things that also as well may not carry the highest vibrational frequency. And so how does somebody guard themselves, or how does somebody try to maintain or even be aware? You might wake up in the morning feeling this, and by the time breakfast is over, already,
right.
So what about that?
So this is what I do, and this is what I coach, right? I'm not going to tell anybody to not have your phone close by. I belong to a group of this. I think there's like 20 of us women. We call ourselves the lovely ladies of Long Island, and we're constantly texting, just always there for each other, and just
Very
nice.
All
well wishes and all these other things. I also have Marcos with friends, videos with friends, that we're always Marcoing really good things, just like 5-second things, So, but I protect my morning with everything that I've got, like my morning routine. So when I wake up within the first 17 seconds and I meditate, and then I journal and I have a playlist, and I'm really, really, with my morning routine, I'm very careful about the music that I listen to. I'm not listening to crazy stuff. I'm listening to the song Grateful. I'm listening to the song Good Energy, like a lot of songs that I know will raise my vibration. I am not checking my emails. I am not looking for problems. I'm not going to watch the news. I don't want to know what's going on in the news when I first wake up in the morning. I will find out after I get my morning routine, because I'm going to guard my energy with everything I've got, so that when I do encounter that outer world, that 3D, I'm prepared for that a lot better than if I allow myself to be shackled by it first thing in the morning. When people wake up and the norm is to have a cup of coffee and flip through the news, no, don't do that. I don't want to tell you what to do, what not to do, but if you'd like some coaching on how to live a better life, don't do that. It's not gonna serve you unless you're working on Wall Street and you need to look at the financials before you go to work. I would say get your morning routine done, set your state. And then when you're on the train or whatever it is, then start going through the news, But as far as a morning routine, you want to get that down. Everybody has different things, Some people like doing the Tony Robbins thing of the ice water and the cold and shocking the system, and other people like the more chill, kind of a relaxing candles and meditation or whatever. Everybody has their own personality and their own soul and their own thing that lights them up. Find whatever that is for you, and then that's what you do. But regarding the music, I listen to podcasts, because I love learning something new every single day. It could be like 10 minutes. I'll listen. I love Audible. I listen to more books than I listen to music, and I love music. But driving in a car, I'll listen to books. But in the morning, specifically, I like learning. So it could be 10 minutes of listening to a podcast or 10 minutes of listening to a book. But this is all setting my state before I go out into the 3D. So to help somebody, instead of going from up here to down here instantly, you won't do that unless you voluntarily do that. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're dealing with crisis, and we all have crisis, with older parents or kids or friends or this, we live on Earth. Everybody has their own crisis that they're dealing with. But it doesn't have to be done and first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up, when you go into that, that is so unhealthy. And the body is not a fan of that. Give your body what it needs emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and physically, what it needs before you get into that. I need to go and deal with this crisis, or deal with this email that I don't want to deal with, or deal with this person that I don't want to deal with. It doesn't have to be a crisis. It could be anything. But do not go and deal with anything like that, or even entertain it or think about it or feel anything for it until you've grounded yourself, first thing in the morning. You got to ground yourself first, and then you're able to deal with it from a place of clarity as opposed to a place of chaos. You don't want to deal with it in chaos. Go ahead.
Well, no, and that's a really interesting point, because you can even do your own experiment. If you're very intentional and grounded, and if you encounter something that is upsetting or whatever, your reaction to it is going to be significantly different than if you're already frazzled, you're already pulled in 90 directions, and then you have the same scenario. Your response is just going to be so much more chaotic and disjointed and unsettling.
And
physically,
it's funny.
Emotionally, yes.
Absolutely. And not funny, haha, funny, interesting. Because I can see who does the work and who doesn't, and I see the way people react as opposed to responding.
Ooh, yes.
Oh yeah. People that are going for the jugular, and people that are like insulting and this and that, when they haven't done the work. When you can enter any kind of a crisis, any kind of a situation, and you can be on the receiving end of things coming your way that's not true and everything else. But when you're grounded in your authentic power, in your authentic truth, with who you truly are, your authentic self, it doesn't matter what's coming your way. You're able to deal with it with that inner peace. You might be thrown back on your heels for a second, but you're like, wait a second, breathe. And then you're able to deal with it so much better because you're in calm. You're in clarity, you're not in chaos. And then usually the people that deal with things in chaos, they have so many regrets. But how many regrets do you think people have when they're dealing with things from clarity and calm? Not too many.
And that's a great point as well, because you're right. If you're moving forward with confidence in the way, aligned with your beliefs, you don't have a lot of regrets. But if everything is reactionary, then you're just like, wow, did I handle that the best way? Was that the best outcome?
Exactly. And that goes towards leadership also, which is the last one.
So how does that play in? How does that play, Erin?
Leadership is we're all leaders of our own life, and we all need to take accountability for that. A lot of people just don't want to take accountability for the fact that they're responsible for their results. It's not our parents' fault and our boss's fault and our ex-spouse's fault or our children's fault or da-da-da-da-da. It's nobody else's fault. We have to take accountability and responsibility for how we deal with it. Right now, circumstances might have happened that are unfair, but how we respond to that now is on us. 100%, 1,000%. And then the results we're getting are on us. So the outer world, other people, when I say the outer world, I mean anything outside of you. Somebody could have expectations of us, right? Expectations of you, of me, of you guys watching that may seem unrealistic. Like you might be doing the best you possibly can, but somebody else, your boss or a family member or somebody might expect you to do more. But you're doing the very best you can. Why would you care what that other person thought? If you're standing in your authentic truth and there's no guilt because you're doing everything humanly possible, but other people, places and things have these expectations of you, then you don't have to be apologetic for not doing that. True leadership is true leadership is not just, I'm like the Pied Piper and I'm leading the way and I'm just, that's a different kind of leadership. I'm just talking about a leadership of your own life, being the CEO of your own life. And people talk about, it's my world and you're living in it and all these kinds of things. This is now, I heard that once before and I was like, huh? But now a lot of people are saying this now. It's my world and you're living. I don't know how that got out there, but I'm going to clarify that really quick in this little explanation. As far as leadership goes, the only world that we have when everybody else is in it is the one in our imagination. When we're visualizing what we want, it's in our imagination with our eyes closed and we see our vision. We're so excited and all those people are there and they're doing their part, because you want to bring that vision alive. And it's always for the highest good of all concerned. Nobody gets hurt in these visions. It's always for the highest good of all concerned. So that's the only place when it's my world and you're living in it. Okay. When you're in your own imagination, when you're imaging something that you want in your mind, in your mind's eye. Otherwise, it's called controlling other people. So you don't want to be a pawn. You don't want to be a pawn in somebody else's world when their world should just be in their imagination, right? So true leadership is when you take your personal power back and then you now are in control of your own world. And when you do that, and for the 4 agreements, that book that I mentioned about being impeccable with your word, the second one is don't personalize anything. When I first learned that years ago about, not because I'm a Pisces, I'm I'm a very sensitive person, but when I learned not to personalize everything and explain myself to death and didn't want to be misunderstood and all these other things, my whole world opens up. And I want that for everybody watching. Leadership is not about caring what other people think. Leadership is about showing up as the best version of you every day, unapologetically, and doing the best you can. That's leadership, and it's about being true to your mission. What is it that you want to accomplish? And if leading others, if you're in management, I coach a lot of C-suite, we're all managers because we have clients, we're all, in leadership roles because we have our own businesses, so you're leading people and that's what we choose to do. In that way, there's different versions of leadership. But as long as you're showing up, as long as we're all showing up, doing the very best we can. And I'm going to talk a second about money here also with regards to that kind of leadership, with regards to business owners. The exchange of money energetically, because money is energy. So for leaders of businesses or CEOs or C-suite and corporations and stuff like that, and founders and owners of their own businesses, if you're cutting corners, if you're trying to get over, if you're not giving it your best, but you're getting the money in return and you're laughing about it, you will not win. You will go home and you're not going to understand why your kids aren't talking to you or why this or why you're unhappy. There's a lot of very unhappy, very wealthy, very unhappy people on the planet. I've seen it. I've talked to them, but they tell me very openly, and they think it's funny as they're telling me these things about, I did this and I did that. And I'm like, do you see the exchange of energy? They gave you money, you gave them that. And you think that money that you received was going to have good energy tied to it? Of course not. Of course not. That's not great leadership. That's horrible leadership. That's taking advantage of people. And so when you can change the way you do business or change the way you interact with people, everything is negotiation. We negotiate with our kids. Everything is negotiations and everything else. But when you can do it in a sense that that you're doing the very best, for the other person involved, and if money is there as an exchange with regards to that leadership, let it be an amazing exchange of energy. Okay? So there you go.
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. And I actually have like a million more questions, but how can people best get in touch with you? Because I think the level to which you're helping people turn their lives around is phenomenal, and you're absolutely inspirational. So Erin, how can people get in touch with you so that they can, you can help them walk the path to something better?
Well, I would love for you to get in touch with me at scheduleerin.com. Scheduleerin.com. You could schedule a call with me. We'll have a discovery call. We'll talk about what it is that you want to accomplish, what's holding you back, and we can talk about the next steps that you need to do in order to help you get there. And so I love these calls, and I just love helping people get those next steps taken care of, because literally in just a few minutes, I can redirect the way they're thinking and where they're going, and it just sets a different trajectory, and it's amazing. And then the other thing is I have an event coming up next weekend that's free, and people can register for it. It's a master class with myself and a few other speakers, and Andy is one of them. Andy Nam is one of them, and the Life on Track for the Life on Track coaching agency. So you can go to lifeontrackcoaching.com, lifeontrackcoaching.com, and register for the masterclass there. And you'll just get more of this and from other speakers as well.
This is wonderful. Erin, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. And if today's episode spoke to you, don't go it alone. Book your free consult with one of our expert coaches at chronichealthcollective.com for personalized support, and subscribe to our monthly magazine for expert tips from all 14 coaches to elevate your health, mindset, and relationships. And catch us live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. CST, or watch past episodes anytime on E360 TV or youtube.com at Chronic Health Collective. And thank you so much for tuning in. And again, Erin, your story is amazing, and thank you so much.
Thank you. You're fabulous. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you.
You're sweet. Thank you, Erin.